Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Hanzel, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you. I'm very excited to be here, but quite frankly, I'm even more excited that you are here because that means you've taken the time to invest in yourself, to learn from some incredible individuals, and to take away some things that will hopefully have a positive impact on your lives and on your careers. So, congratulations to you, and thank you for taking time out of your days to do something to better yourselves. It's so incredibly important. Well, I work at the Walt Disney Company. I work with our long-term strategic planning for our environmental initiatives at Disney parks across the globe. And if you know anything about Disney, you know that we are a storytelling company. So I plan to share just a few stories with you today about networking and the idea of intentional relationships and purpose-built networks. So the Walt Disney Company is a very large company with a few 100,000 people spread across the globe. Now, I started my career on an internship in 2004 at the Walt Disney World Resort, which is also very large. In fact, in 2004, it was the largest single site employer in the United States with over 45,000 employees at that time. Now, when I started this internship, I was a sophomore in college, just finishing up my sophomore year, and it was January of 2004. I was living in Ohio in the United States. If you've ever been to, or if you know anything about Ohio, it's a gray, cold, and wet place in the winter. So I was really excited to pack up my car and head for Florida. So when I arrived, I had my first week of training and work. I was working at a place called Downtown Disney, having a wonderful time meeting all of my new peers. And on my very last day of my first week, my brand new leader, Michael Hajek, called me into his office and we had a wonderful one-on-one. During that one-on-one, he said, Paul, what do you want to do at Disney? Are you just here for an internship and for some learnings? If so, what do you want to learn? Do you want to stay with Disney? What are your, and before he could even finish, I interrupted. I was so excited. And I said, I want to be president of the Walt Disney World Resort. And he had a smirk, he had a laugh, and we had a good chuckle. But then he realized, oh, wow, he's serious. But I saw his demeanor. And so I said, okay, maybe that's a little aggressive. Maybe I just want to be vice president of the Magic Kingdom. So without missing a beat, he said, you know what? Our executive vice president, Lee Cockrell, his office is just right across the street. You should meet with Lee. And I responded to him, wow, that would be amazing. But why in the world would the executive vice president want to meet with me? And maybe even more importantly, where would he find the time? I'm sure a guy like that is so incredibly busy. And Michael gave me one of my first learnings. It's a simple one, but it's an effective one. And he said, Paul, it's true, but everybody has to eat. So why don't you send him a note and see if he would be interested in grabbing lunch with you one day, right? We're right across the street. We share the same cafeteria. Why not? In fact, I bet if you offered to buy him lunch, how could he possibly say no? And so I thought, all right, why not? I'll give it a shot. And I sent our executive vice president of Walt Disney World, overseeing 45,000 employees, cast members, we call them, a note saying, hey, can I buy you lunch next week? I'd love to pick your brain. And I was absolutely shocked when he said yes. And so we met at a Subway sandwich shop and I tried to buy him a sandwich. Of course, he wouldn't let me buy it. He bought one for me. And we had a wonderful one-on-one. We talked about his career, my aspirations, and what I'd love to share with you is the impact that that had on my career. And it was absolutely none, zero. And in that moment, I think my effort was good, but maybe it was a little misplaced. And when I think about that first one-on-one with the EVP of Walt Disney World, what were my intentions and what were my expectations coming out of it? And this is where I sort of learned about my first mistake. And that's, I didn't ask myself, what am I going to get out of this? And maybe even more importantly, what is Lee going to get out of this from me? And I will tell you, at that moment, I didn't add Lee to my network. And it was because of that very important thing that I missed. I didn't ask myself, what can I do for him? So that's the first point I'd really like you to think about is when you're networking with individuals, think about not just what you're going to learn from that person, but also what you can do for them. Now, when you're earlier in your career, whether it's internships, you're brand new to a job or a role, or even if you're just seeking a job, when you're reaching out to people, whether it's in person or in LinkedIn, those people have some built-in expectations. especially when they see that you're in school or just coming out of school. They know that you're looking for jobs, you're looking for advice, you're looking for help. What they don't expect is that you might be able to offer something for them too. But let me tell you, that's what will truly separate you from the tens or hundreds of messages they have in their LinkedIn inbox. I'm no different. Working in the sustainability industry, I get messages left and right every day of people that would like to meet and chat and talk. And I would love if I could meet with every single one of them. But if I did, I would have no time to do this very important environmental work myself. So as I'm looking through and sifting through all these messages, one of the things that I look at is there somebody that maybe has something that they can offer me so that we can help each other out? So as you're networking, as you're sending those notes out, think about what it is that you can offer to the individual that you're reaching out to. And I was thinking about this just a few weeks ago. I was walking through Magic Kingdom Park here in Orlando, and we have this ride, the Teacups. You may have seen pictures of it. We call it the Mad Tea Party. There's actually a quote on a leaf at the teacups, and it's really relevant to this discussion we're having today. It's from a gentleman named Randy Pausch. And if you've never heard of Randy, I highly recommend look him up. He's got both a book and a series of videos called The Last Lecture. Absolutely incredible, and for me, life-changing. But this leaf, this little plaque at the Mad Tea Party really calls out the spirit of what Randy talks about. And this is what he says. He says, be good at something, it makes you valuable. Have something to bring to the table because that will make you more welcome. And I guarantee you, if you're here sitting, watching these videos, enjoying this conference, learning, your value, you already bring value. You really do. But there's a lot of valuable people out in the world. There's a lot of highly educated people, people that bring lots of experience. There are many valuable people that apply for jobs in my team every single day. What's the difference? What's the separator, if you will? It's those that have something to bring to the table. And that's truly what makes them more welcome. So think about that. When you're networking with people, in that introductory message, make sure you're sharing what you bring to the table, and you will be more welcomed. To add to that, it's also important to think about what does that person bring to your table? Because a network is truly two ways. It's always bi-directional. So before you go and meet with somebody, like in my case, the executive vice president of Walt Disney World, think about what do you gain from them? It's a two-way street. Now, when you're very early in your career, you're going to find that as you join companies, whether it's as an intern or as a full-time employee, one of the things that you lack is authority. And so you think, well, without this idea of authority, real or perceived, how do I bring something to the table? And let me tell you, there's a concept and numerous books written about the idea of influence without authority. And this is a really, really important thing to focus on. So as you're entering your careers, think about not necessarily needing authority to influence people, but how can you do it without? How can you propel their work forward? And that idea of propelling somebody else's work forward is how you influence without authority. And I want to give you an example of something we did at Walt Disney World to influence without authority and get some people on our side and then thus grow our professional network. So just a few years ago, coming out of COVID, parks reopening, we were having some great conversations with a few of our recyclers, and we realized a lot of the glass that we were sending to recycle was just ending up being crushed and used as landfill cover. And while technically speaking, we were still recycling it and a recycler was still taking it, we felt that there were better uses for it, but the recycler shared, there really just wasn't a big market in the Southeast United States for recycled glass. So we decided we wanted to change that, and we wanted to influence our local governments and recyclers to change that as well. So we purchased an industrial-sized glass pulverizer. And so we placed it at one of our resort hotels. It's still operating there today. And we crush glass and turn it into a smooth material called cullet that really resembles gravel or sand. And we found a lot of uses for that material. We can use it to create nature trails for our trail rides. We can use it to replenish beaches, water filtration. We can add it to construction materials to strengthen them. But Disney is not in the recycling business, right? We're an entertainment company. We create positive memories. We definitely don't run a recycling facility or a material recovery facility. So what we did is we invited local governments and recycling companies to come and see this pulverizer, but also to see what we were using the material for. And they were astounded. They were absolutely shocked. And in fact, one of our local government contacts shared with us, wow, we've been looking for a better way to recycle all of our glass, because when we send it to our facility, they just crush it up and throw it in the landfill. And so they've thanked us every single day. We were able to influence their decisions so that now a few of our local governments are installing their own industrial-sized glass pulverizers. And that influence, without us having authority over those governments, have allowed us to add them and those contacts to our professional network. That level of influence has built trust between us and the government and us. It's given us contacts to add to our network. And now when I have some sort of a government issue that comes up, I have some spectacular contacts within my network that I gained through influencing without authority. And so that's incredibly important to think of. Now, the last thing that I want you to think about as you're building your networks, especially early in your careers, is finding the right people for your networks, both professional and personal. And when I reflect on my own network and think about the characters or the archetypes, if you will, of people, I have narrowed it down to a group here that I think is really important that everybody has in their networks. And I want to go through some of those characters and share with you just a bit about what might be good to look for. So the first one for me is a mentor. And when I think of a mentor, that tends to be somebody who's incredibly experienced, or an elder, if you will. They usually have skills and knowledge, and they share their thoughts on both their career and mine based on their experiences, what they did well and what they could have improved upon. In my network, that's JD. And I know that I can always go to JD and say, hey, did you ever try this? And I would say more times than not, he says, oh yeah, we tried that. And he'll share if it worked or if it didn't. He's amazing. Now, it's also important to have a coach. And I think a coach is distinctly different from a mentor. A coach is somebody who offers guidance, and guidance based on philosophy. And many times that philosophy will be very similar to your own. This is also somebody who can offer you what I like to call tough love. And that's important to hear sometimes, right? But they'll also offer you encouragement. And a coach is typically somebody who knows when you need tough love and when you need encouragement. My coach is Jessica, and it never ceases to amaze me how she always knows exactly what I need to hear at any given moment. An industry expert is also somebody great to have. And this is so true for me. I have two industry experts in my network. One is Tim, one is Kevin. Between Tim and Kevin, if I don't know an answer, I know they will. If I don't know something about an industry, I know they will. And they know their stuff inside and out. They're the one that I can trust, I can go to not only get an answer, but to get the best answer. Now, a lot of networks could really, really excel with a realist. And a realist is somebody that will probably tell you 10,000 reasons why something will fail. But what's really important about a realist is they help you find holes in your idea. They help you find things that you missed. They help you to overcome objections and barriers. And my realist is Steven, and he does it in such a great way. He says, Paul, this is a great idea, but I really think you're going to struggle to get funding, and here's why. And I really feel like I couldn't do a lot of what I accomplished, and our team couldn't do a lot of it without Steven. Just a few more. It's important to have a listener. And this is somebody who's always willing to lend an ear. They may or may not offer advice. And I think there's listeners of each type. Some listeners will just listen and let you vent and come up with your own solutions. And some listeners will offer advice to you. But mine is Anthony. I could call Anthony at 2 a.m. and I know he would answer and listen to me. And it's so important to have Anthony. The last few, we have a walking and talking idea machine, sometimes called the creative or the visionary. This is a person who will come up with solutions, sometimes simple, sometimes complex, but they will always find a solution. And Chris is my solution guy. It doesn't matter how crazy the scenario is, Chris will find a way to make it work. Two more. We have the partner. And the partner is somebody who's always willing to say yes. They'll come on that journey with you, support you, and be there for you, even through your failures. And Garrett is my partner. Garrett will always be there for me. And I know that I'll always be there for him. And the last one is the connector. The connector is someone that knows everybody. They might know everyone. And let me tell you, the connector will make sure that you are always in the right hands with the people in your network too. So always make sure you have a connector in your networks. But these are just a few tools and tips that will help you build your networks, especially early in your career, and create your own networking story. And I applaud you for being here today. Thank you so much for listening, and keep focusing on building strong networks. And with strong networks, success will follow. Thank you.